Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk and UK Astrologer. Now this week we are looking at a listener's chart, and obviously we're keeping it an anonymous chart, but we're going to be calling the person PF. And so we've had a few emails and I've asked her, what in particular is it that you want to know from your chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read part of the email that she sent me. She said, when I found your podcast, the first episode I listened to was about having an unaspected Mercury. I have that. You had mentioned that you wanted to hear from someone with an unaspected Mercury and how it shows up in my life. So I want to share with you how this lack of aspects manifests with me. What I have found is that the people that show up in my life, that have importance to my life as well, not just everybody, usually have something where my unaspected Mercury is in or an aspect to that, without fail. To top it off, my husband has a lot of aspects to my unaspected Mercury. While I was looking at this, I noticed that his Saturn has a lack of aspects, with the only one being a separating square to his Sun. I have a lot of aspects to his Saturn. Then while contemplating this, I realised that my chart is very Saturnian, while his is very Mercurial, with Mercury conjunct his Ascendant and co-present with Neptune. He has a very active imagination. Also, the lack of aspects to Mercury with me manifests with absent-mindedness and forgetfulness. I'm shy at first and not a big talker, but I am creative and a maker. Venus and Mercury in Virgo, and a bit eccentric, some may say weird. I contribute the last part to the moon conjunct Uranus, which also manifests in my mother being a terror, thief, and batshit crazy. Currently, I'm in my 30th year of teaching high school ceramics, looking to retire in about 5 years. My goal was always to teach until I was eligible to retire with a teacher pension, then supplement my retirement with making artwork. I'm finding, though, that I'm not good at selling my personal work. Meanwhile, I've been a student of astrology since around 1998. I even started a correspondence course using the mail system. I found this course through the American Federation of Astrologers, and I kept it up for a yearish, but got bogged down trying to grasp drawing charts by hand. The math, oh my God. Then I discovered astro.com. So over the years, I've read astrology, studied astrology, went off at tangents and down rabbit holes, and landed taking blah, 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 blah courses about a year ago. I obviously don't want to reveal who they're training with. I'm currently in year 2. This is to prepare me, hopefully, to do this professionally for a bit when I do hit that magic number with retirement. I've really enjoyed your recent talks about things to do and tips for doing my own astrology business, by the way. I don't have anything pressing really except my marriage, which is a show, and my husband won't leave. But besides that, I just wanted to share these things with you. So what I thought would be helpful to PF and also to listeners is we're going to go through both charts. So PF herself and her husband's charts will talk about the unaspected Mercury, which doesn't happen a lot. I don't come across a vast amount of clients that have unaspected personal planets. It's every now and again it'd be an unaspected sun, every now and again it'd be an unaspected moon. I haven't come across too many unaspected Mercuries, so lush, thank you very much PF for sending this in. But I want to demonstrate with you about the connections and the disconnections between her chart, your chart PF, and hubby's. Okay, so let's start off by considering the chart, because we can't make an analysis or give advice to anybody when we're working with them until we have an understanding of the chart and where they're coming from and how the world looks for them. So in PF's case, she has a 24 degrees Capricorn Ascendant. And whenever Capricorn rises, we're going to have pragmatism, we're going to be down to earth, we're going to want to only, especially in a stressful situation, we're only going to want to do stuff that we can see is worth doing. Nobody with a Capricorn Ascendant is going to do something that they cannot see a possible result from doing whatever it is. The Sun is Leo, 14 degrees Leo, and is in the 7th house. 7th house is close relationships and marriage. This is a person that needs to be, regardless of how the relationship is, needs to be in a close personal relationship. Full stop. Okay, there's no there's no other way of analysing it. If the Sun is in the 7th, I've got that. If the Sun is in the 7th, they operate much better being in a close personal relationship. However, the Sun in Leo is also conjunct Mars, and Mars is 12 degrees. They're only 2 degrees apart. And anybody with the Sun and Mars conjunct is going to very quickly feel cross about whatever it is. So anger is going to be high on their life experience of things in general. And with that also being in the 7th, it wouldn't be unheard of, because she's made a couple of comments about her partner. It's not going to be particularly, I'm not going to say diplomatic, it's the wrong word, but there's going to be a knee-jerk thing to always consider, possibly, that the partner, because the 7th house is partners, that the partner is aggressive or the partner doesn't do things, etc. We have to take ownership for our own planets in their own placements. Now, PF's also mentioned that her moon is conjunct Uranus and her mother's batshit crazy, and that unfortunately is a moon conjunct Uranus thing. It's not an indicator that your mother will be crazy. What it indicates is that your experience of your mother is very unpredictable. Uranus is the planet of unpredictability. It's not the planet of madness. No such planet exists. But when the moon, which is the emotions, and you want the emotions to be reasonably smooth and understandable, when you've got Uranus next to anything, it's going to be unpredictable. So if you're imagining the moon represents your mother and Uranus is right next door, and they're exactly 5 degrees, so moon's 5 degrees Libra, 57 minutes, Uranus is 5 degrees minute, 57 minutes. The only difference is the moon is 47 seconds and Uranus is 44 seconds. So there's only 3 seconds difference between the moon and Uranus. So this will be someone whose experience of mother is, I don't know what's coming next. I have no idea what's going on for them. Because when it comes to our own chart, until we understand how astrology works, it can be quite easy to see the moon as the mother, and this is actually how the mother is. And it's not. So from my millions of years of doing astrology and analysing my completely negative relationship with my mother, which existed right up until me becoming a mother myself, and then understanding astrology, that my mother wasn't any of the things that I thought she was. It was me projecting it onto her, because my moon can only recognise what my moon is. And so when we take a little bit of ownership for our moon and recognise that it doesn't literally represent our mother, it's actually how we expect to be mothered, and possibly like to be mothered. Not that we've got any choice in it. We don't have choice to how we are mothered, but it's the sort of spectacles that we're wearing to look at the mother situation. And yes, I perfectly understand, PF, you saying batshit crazy, but your moon is next to Uranus, and it's the unpredictability of the love relationship or non-love relationship that you might have with your mother. So it'd be a good idea to at some point to have a look at your mother's chart, but we don't have time to do that today. Pluto is in the sign of Virgo, and it's 25 degrees, and Venus is 28 degrees in Virgo, and they're conjunct. So and I've talked about this in a recent episode, that when a personal planet is conjunct an outer planet, so you've got moon conjunct Uranus, eek, And then you've got Venus conjunct Pluto. Life isn't going to be easy peasy because Pluto's about deep change and transformation. It's a power struggle flipping planet. And having that next to Venus means there's a tendency to want to hold on to love so much that you put up with so much suffering in the experience of it, in the hope that if you love the person enough, that will transform them. Pluto deep change transformation bit is also very much a power struggle planet. Now, these 4 planets are also, I haven't said what there was, these 4 planets are located in the 9th house: long distance travel, further education, philosophy, belief, spirituality, etc. So I tend to, when I'm working with clients, I don't really want to do much to the sun sign. Most people understand the sun sign. I tend to make an astrological prescription for the moon. And the moon next to Uranus wants the emotions to be free. Pluto next to Venus wants love that is deeply transformative and possibly hurts a bit, but just recognizing it can help. But having them all in the 9th house, so it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that you're studying astrology and you're doing this extra course, because in doing it, you will at some point, if I've done it already, you'll get some aha moments and you'll understand better your place in your chart. Because your chart, when you understand your place within your chart, because your chart's different to everybody else's, there's a sense of belonging. Now, moon in Libra, just taking that on its own, is quite a tricky moon sign to have, because it's desperately indecisive. So you've got a moon that is not only indecisive, but it's also unpredictable. And it's an air sign. So air signs feel better being able to verbalize how they feel. It's pointless asking a moon air sign how they feel, but you can ask them, their thoughts about their feelings, because they won't be able to feel them. Somebody with moon in Cancer, ask them how they feel. Trust me, they'll be able to tell you straight away. A moon in a water sign knows exactly how they feel. A moon in an earth sign sort of take a few minutes to work out how they feel, and a moon in a fire sign will tell you seconds. Moon in an air sign needs space to be able to talk about what's happening for them, and then in the talking of it, then they suddenly hear themselves saying something that summarises quite acutely exactly what's going on for them. Now, not only is Mercury unaspected, but Mercury's in a hidden house. So we talked before about the 12th and the 8th are hidden houses. They're not houses that you reveal to other people. And it's in the sign of Virgo. So when you're a Leo and your Mercury's in Virgo, it can, the self-criticism is going to be off the scale. But unaspected and hidden in the 8th. So I would be making recommendations like keep a secret diary and keep it locked, under lock and key. Shove it in a drawer with a great big flipping padlock on it, but right. Because Mercury in Virgo feels better, much better, being able to write down things physically, pen on paper. When your Mercury is, as in your case, totally unaspect, it does one in conjunct to something or other. What's that? It's an in conjunct to Chiron. Not very helpful. So it's better to journal for sure. So because you're creative, I'd be recommending, if you haven't already read it, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, lovely Pisces lady, brilliant book, still is going. So Julia Cameron is still alive, still on Instagram, still being interviewed by people talking about the morning pages. But keep them under lock and key. Don't go back and let anybody else read them, or read them yourself. The morning pages that Julia Cameron talks about are not to be read back. You just write it and you shove it in the drawer. 4 pages, A4, write it all down. Because even though the Mercury is unaspected, it still needs a place within the chart. So it needs to have its space to do stuff. And because Mercury is how we think, and it's not forming an aspect to anything else in the chart, you're allowed to have your quiet thoughts, and your quiet thoughts can be written down in somewhere secret and secluded, because it's 8th house. And you might find that and I don't know how you do your ceramics. I don't know if you do it in a with lots of other people around, or in your own room, or you've got your own kiln or whatever. I'm not too sure. But that's the creative side of things. But that's not how you think. Mercury's how you think. That's not how you create. Obviously, you have to have the inspiration for something first. But sometimes people can create by just slapping the what's the word for it? Slapping the clay. That's what I'm looking for. The clay on the wheel, and then whizzing it and see what happens. I know a teeny bit about ceramics because I did it at school, and my dad studied it for a while. But anyway. Jupiter is also in Libra in the 10th. The MC is in the 10th in Scorpio. We've got Neptune retrograde in Scorpio in the 11th house of friendships. So the 12th house, 1st house, 2nd house, 3rd house, 5th house and 6th house is empty. We've got a sort of we could make a bucket out of that. All of the planets from 7 to 11, and the handle of the bucket being Saturn. Or we can say that's a bowl, but it's got a bit of an edge to it because the houses 5 and 6 are empty. But either way, all the planets are on one side of the circle. So focus is good. Even though you've got that erratic moon in Libra, there will be an ability to be able to focus on things. Saturn's in the 4th, so maybe rather severe upbringing. I don't know what your child was like, but Saturn's in opposition to Neptune. Saturn can represent the father, so can the Sun, by the way. And the Sun and Saturn are square to each other. And with Saturn being in opposition to Neptune, there could be the father had some sort of alcohol problem or whatever. I'm not saying that is the case, but that's a possibility with Saturn opposition to Neptune retrograde. And then Saturn being square to the Sun. So that's the ruler to the chart. So you've got Capricorn Ascendant, your ruler's in the 4th. You do need to make your home the place that you live, the physical building that you're in, need to make it safe and secure, and also to feel responsible, the sense of responsibility for it. But with Saturn squaring the Sun as well and being the ruler to your chart, unfortunately you're going to be taking on a lot of responsibilities that probably aren't yours, and feeling bad that certain things haven't gone the way you want them to, and blaming yourself. But hey, we're not allowed to do that. Very important not to. Now, I quite agree when you say that you're shy at first. Nobody with a Capricorn Ascendant's going to go, ta-da, here I am. It's a very shy, that and a Virgo Ascendant, probably pretty shy Ascendants, and Scorpio. I'm shy at first and not a big talker. You're not going to talk a lot. You can't with Mercury and Virgo. You can flip him right a lot. You're creative, Venus and Mercury and Virgo. Yeah, but your Venus is conjunct your Pluto, so be aware of that. I'm not detracting from it. And a bit eccentric. I would have thought the eccentric would become more from Uranus, because Uranus is a weird and eccentric planet. Now, you say that you're in your 30th year teaching high school ceramics and looking to retire in about 5 years' time. So in 5 years' time, you'll be 60. And I can totally understand wanting to retire at that point. You're teaching. You see, teaching is 9th house. I'm a bit worried that were you to give up teaching, you might miss it, because you've got such a cluster of planets all in your 9th house. And the two houses that are mostly about teaching are the 3rd, and you've got your Chiron in Aries, 10 degrees retrograde in there, and the 9th, which is further education, higher education, etc. I think your moon might suffer a bit. And with that Capricorn Ascendant, you're going to freak out if you're not getting enough money. So I'd be suggesting making a compromise to part-time teaching, so you can, I don't know when you can draw your pension or how your pensions, I've got no idea how they work in the US. In the UK, you can get a state pension if you were born in 1960, you can get it at the age of 66, and then born any time after 1960 from now on in. The next lot of retirees won't get it until they're age 67, and then it'll probably go up again depending on what you're born after. This is after the year 1960. So I don't know how pensions work in the US, but personally, if you're asking my advice, which you're not, I'd be more inclined to suggest to go part-time. And the other thing, for anybody that's listening that's considering retirement, don't do it suddenly. Do it gradually, because working one day and not working the next takes absolutely ages to get used to. And the thing about retirement, it's very, very, very similar to unemployment, because you're not working. And I don't know if you've ever, I'm talking generally now, when I say you, I'm to every listener, not just particularly PF, that if you've ever been in a job and you've got the sack, and one day you wake up, or the day you get the sack, the next day you wake up, you haven't got a job to go to, it's terribly disorientating, because the first thing you have to do is find out, how you're going to sort your finances out. Even though in the UK there are some sort of benefits that can help, but getting sacked or being made redundant, a friend of mine worked in finance and got made redundant something ridiculously like 4 times. I mean, she benefited financially every time because they used to give her big payouts, but the shock to the system and then having to go and find another job. So I tend to recommend to people that are coming up to retirement age, which I am working with a lot at the moment because I'm the same thing myself, is to do it gradually and to cut your hours down less and less and less, so that eventually you reach a stage where you're still working a bit. And I listened to a fabulous audio book the other day by some bloke, I think he lives in Australia, and he says, and this is recommended for people that live in Australia and I don't give up work at all. He recommends working 2 days a month, that you still have some sort of job that pays you something, and you do that work for a minimum of 2 days a month. And I'd agree with that. Obviously, all of this is dependable upon your health, because if your health, or anybody now, if your health is bad, then it's probably not a good, you wouldn't be able to work. So that's the end of that. But most people, if they suddenly retire, it's an absolute shock to the system, because now you wake up in the morning and what do? There's only a limited amount of washing up and hoovering you can do in a day, and there's a limited amount of mates that you can meet for a cup of coffee and go places. Having at least a small amount of work of some description is much, much better for mental health, and your finances never relied just totally on a pension. Eek! So if we're looking at transits and you're planning on that being 5 years from now, you haven't had your second Saturn return, and I tend to think that total retirement works better after the second Saturn. So at the moment, Saturn's in the sign of Pisces, is the end of it, and it's messing about, going retrograde and stuff. Then it's going to spend 2 years in Aries and then 2 years in Taurus, and it'll be when it's during the second half of the second year, when it's in Taurus, that'll be a better time to consider it, rather than waiting until it goes into Gemini, which will then be transiting through your 5th house. I wouldn't recommend that. I would, because we're talking about this now, what would I recommend? I'd wait until the second Saturn return, because it's funny how the second Saturn return, you get your first one, whatever, and then you get your second one, you sort of start realising what is important for you. Plus it'll also be transiting through your 4th house, which is where it is natally. Uranus is just entering your 5th house of creativity. I think that is going to help. Now, you've put there that funny thing. You said, I'm finding, though, that I'm not good at selling my personal work. What do you mean by that? not good at selling it. So what's your definition of good? You put a price on it and that's it. Now this is covered in The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and people are as reticent about pricing their work as they are about flogging it. Well, don't consider it to be yours. Imagine in your mind, if you can't imagine selling your own work and you're bad at it, in your mind, just imagine that you're somebody else and you're selling their work. So say this was work that was created by one of your students as an absolute genius. How would you go about recommending that they sold it? You certainly wouldn't tell them to sell it for $5. Do you know what I mean? And, but to go into now, a relative of mine, well, I'm not going to dump them in it because I haven't given permission, but a relative of mine was getting on a bit and considering stopping work completely from their self-employment and doing something artistic because they're artistic and selling that art. And when they discovered and realised how many of these things they would have to sell, how many they would sell to be able to replace their self-employment income, they went, oh, not such a good idea. So I don't at all recommend supplementing your retirement income by making artwork. I would recommend that you continue to teach in a different way. I mean, maybe you're having to teach in a college or a uni or something at the moment. Nothing to stop you doing it privately. People absolutely love to learn how to do ceramics. They might not do it forever. As I mentioned earlier, my father got into his 60s and he got into ceramic, and he retired rather suddenly, which wasn't a good thing because it eventually killed him. But he got into ceramics and he loved it, doing all the pottery and stuff. In fact, he started selling British pottery abroad. So he formed his own business called Lilac Potteries and found all these lovely people that did ceramics and made beautiful things. And he was okay at doing it himself, but he flogged their stuff. So he quite enjoyed doing that. So what I would recommend is don't supplement your... By all means, have some pieces here or there to sell, but I would say carry on with the teaching. Just don't do so much of it. Do slightly less, yeah. And if you want to learn about how to sell your work, please read The Artist's Way, okay? Because I'm not going to give away the book and the punchline. She's got tons of stuff in there on how to do it, yeah. It's always a block that people have about that creativeness to put a price on it, okay? You don't seem to have a problem about receiving a salary. Why would you have a problem about charging somebody a few hundred whatevers for whatever it is you've created? Anyway, you have had that lengthy Pluto transit. You don't have planets in Capricorn, but from 2008, that lengthy Pluto transit through the sign of Capricorn, for sure, the last few years have definitely been tricky for you. Pluto, when it goes anywhere, is always quite, inverted commas, stressful. But Uranus is going to transit through your 5th, so carry on with the creativity. Neptune's going to go through your 3rd house, so I don't think it's going to do anything particularly because you don't have your planets there, and it's not going to do too much in the way of aspects other than opposition to your natal Pluto, which is doing at the moment. But eventually it'll be opposite, not now, but in a few years' time, be opposite your natal moon. So maybe that'll give you some inspiration and help. So, now then, let's look at you've said, my marriage is a shit show and my husband won't leave. But beside that, I just want to share these things with you. Okay, your husband won't leave. Hello? What do you mean husband won't leave? Have you asked him to leave? I thought that was a rather funny comment. I won't do his chart on its own because we don't have his permission. And what I will do is do the Synastry chart, okay? And you can analyse his chart on his own, and anybody listening can, but I'm not going to be talking anybody through it. But, and this is the big but, you are both compatible. You are a fire sign, and so is he. You've got moon in Libra. However, he's got moon in Capricorn. So both of you have got cardinal moons. So they're not especially compatible with each other. They form a square. And he's a Saggy with Mercury and Scorpio, and you're a Leo with Mercury and Virgo. Neither of you are talking and hearing each other. There's lots of conversation possibly at some point somewhere about something, but the being able to be heard is because your Mercuries are not tuning into your sun signs. Yeah, and so the only way to work through that is to write to each other, because otherwise you're going to be misunderstood. So you're going to have to get into the practice of texting each other or emailing each other or writing each other letters or notes or whatever. But conversation's going to be tricky. And he does have a Scorpio ascendant, whilst yours is Capricorn. Anyone with a Scorpio ascendant is not going to budge. So if you've got a fixed sign ascendant of any colour, any description, so there's 4 signs that are fixed. So it's Scorpio, Taurus, Leo or Aquarius. That's a fixed sign. And his sun's in the first. So even though he's got a Scorpio ascendant, his sun's very early. Look, it's only 0 degrees. He's a baby Saggy. It's the first time he's been on the planet. And I think he's got sun conjunct. It's not far off from his Neptune. The Neptune's on the ascendant. But what happens with the two of you together in the Synastry chart? Look at that 9th house. It's now overloaded with planets. So you've got your 4 natal planets in there, and then there's 4 of his. So he's got Jupiter in... What's his Jupiter in? So his Jupiter's in Libra. His Mars is in Libra. His Pluto's in Virgo. His Uranus is in Libra. So he's got 3 Libra planets all gone boff onto your moon. That's not particularly smooth energy between the two of you. However, it'd be improved from your point of view if you have some long distance travel. And he's a Sagittarius, and generally speaking, a Saggy likes to travel. Most Saggies, 99.9% of them like to travel. His moon is in Capricorn, and so is his Venus, and they fall into your 12th. So that activates your 12th house that's empty. You've got no planets there. This is the house of dreams, and his moon and his Venus are there. So I don't know if you sleep together, but you need to listen to his dreams. You need to get him to tell you about them. Maybe they're different from yours. And his ascendant falls onto and into your 11th house of friendship, along with your MC. His Mercury falls in there as well, and his sun sign conjuncts your Neptune. So if we're looking at past lives, we've got one lifetime where you were a girl and he was a boy, so you're probably brother and sister. We've got another one, Venus to Mars, so you were the romantic couple before. You were the girl, he was the boy. Bless. The difficulty there is because of that scattering of outer planets. If you took the Pluto out, it'd be a beautiful relationship, but both of those Plutos are fighting those personal planets. So you already have Pluto on your Venus. So I'm going to have a power struggle with love. And then his Pluto comes along and adds an extra dimension to it. Your moon's already all over the place. And then his Uranus is near to your moon as well as your natal one. So your poor moon is under stress. And then his Mars is right near to your moon. But it's not bad. You know, if you went jogging together or walking together or something, you'd be able to release it. Yeah. But you're terribly compatible. I mean, if I was looking at your chart and I was thinking, how can this be that you're saying that he won't leave? Well, don't make him leave, for goodness sakes. You'll really, absolutely, 110% regret it. You're just going to have to keep yourself happy from another method. I don't know, read the Venus and Mars books, but for goodness sakes, don't split up with this bloke, because you're super, super compatible. I don't know what he does for a living, and I don't know how much he hugs and kisses you, but just from the astrology of it, it's jolly, jolly nice. The difficulty is your Mercury's. They're talking to each other, and your sun signs acknowledge each other, but you're both speaking languages that neither of you understand, and it's only by writing things down and taking your time about it that you'll be able to communicate better. So I hope that's answered your questions, PF. I hope there's just some little things for you to consider. Definitely continue to learn astrology. I don't think you're ever going to wake up one day, nobody does when they're studying, oh, I understand it all now. But you might be able to understand yourself a bit more and what your needs are. We need to use astrology to help us fulfill our own needs. And when we're all totally fulfilled with everything that our chart needs, we're much, much happier bunnies. So today we've been discussing the chart of PF, who very kindly sent it in and allowed it to be shared, and the synastry with her husband. I haven't done his chart separately because we don't have permission from him, but I just wanted to see what the combos are. Thank you very much for sending in your chart, PF. It's really kind of you. It's great because it means that people that are listening, this is somebody real that we're talking about. It's not somebody that's in the news that I've never met. It's not a pop star or, somebody in the headlines or whatever. This is a real live living person that is understanding and studying astrology as well and wants a different perspective of their chart, because you could give your chart to 6 different people. Trust me, you'll have 6 different opinions on it. But generally speaking, when you get a bunch of astrologers together, normally they'll agree on general parts of a chart. So if you'd like to learn astrology with me, you can definitely ping me an email, mary@maryenglish.co.uk. You can pop over to the website. There is a little PDF on there that outlines how I teach and what I teach. I only now teach one-on-one, and every now and again I do a little webinar, but I tend to notify people about the webinar from my newsletter. So if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, which comes out every month, and you get an analysis for each sign of the zodiac, a few lines for each sign, what's going on for you at the moment, where the planets are and stuff, and some blurb about what is happening astrologically at the moment in the wonderful world of astrology, then ping me an email, mary@maryenglish.co.uk, and I'll subscribe you. And I hope you have a fab week, and I'll be back next week. Bye bye now.